Okay, 2020 paper question 15 and 16. We discussed last day about the set of questions. So this is about the 15th question, 16th question. So in computer, the size of a user program could exceed the size of physical memory. Also, only the demanded area of the program are kept in the physical memory, right? So the above are due to which of the following, right? So here actually size of the computer program exists the size of physical memory. So it's like this, right? So let's say, let me draw that. Okay, let's see, this is your physical program or the software or the set of instruction. And I'm going to draw that in the memory. I'm going to draw that in blue color. Let's say this is your memory or the random access memory. Let's say physical program or the program is kind of like 5 GB and your random access memory is only 4 GB. So this is the situation that they're talking about, where you have a limited memory, but the program size is higher than the memory. So there's a practical issue. What is the practical issue? You can't load the entire program, 5 GB, you can't load it to the 4 GB RAM. Physical memory means the random access memory, right? Physical memory or the random access memory. So then you cannot load this 5 GB program to 4 GB RAM. That is a practical issue. So, but in computer, there's a mechanism to address this. Also, only the demanded area of the program kept in the physical memory. That means, okay, so first of all, we have to understand that the program instructions. So we logically divide this into sections. And most required section or the most demanded sections will be transferred to the random access memory, not everything. So you first divide this to a manageable chunks, and after that, most required components or the demanded areas are transferred to the physical memory. Actually, use of cache memory will not help this. Use of contiguous file allocation, no. File allocation table, that is for the registering files. File allocation table is there for registering file. File register කරන්න තමයි file allocation table එක තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට cache memory එක තියෙන්නේ processor එක ඇතුලේ inside the processor. If you want to keep the content inside the processor, then you have the cache memory. The cache memory එක තියෙන්නේ processor එක ඇතුලේ මතක තියාගන්න. Contiguous file allocation කියලා කියන්නේ, what is contiguous file allocation? You have your hard disk like this. In the contiguous allocation, you focus about, okay, let's draw the sectors of, in hard disk you have clusters and sectors. So these are actually the sectors, tracks actually. So these are tracks, and tracks are further divided to sectors. Tracks are divided horizontally, and these intersections are called sectors. මේ කැපිලා හැදෙන ඒවා. These pieces are called sectors. Actually, when you store a file, when you are saving a file, the file can be saved either in a contiguous, either as a contiguous way or as a fragmented way. Now, fragmented විදිහට save කරොත් part of file will be here, and another part of file will be here, and another part of file will be here. Likewise, the fragmented file will be saved into different sectors. But contiguous allocation means you just allocation sectors continuous way, like this. If you allocate sectors in a continuous way, we call contiguous allocation. So that is the second thing. Cache memory is memory inside processor. Contiguous file allocation is where you allocate the hard disk sectors continuously to a file. File allocation table, actually it remembers FAT or file allocation table, remember where these files are stored in the hard disk. File allocation table will take some space. That is like registry. That is the registry to register all the files in the computer. And there are different file allocation tables. FAT, the next version was FAT16. That is also file allocation table, 16 version. And then you have FAT32, that is file allocation table, right? File allocation table, 32 version, FAT, file allocation table, FAT 32. FAT 32 is the next type of file allocation table. Okay, you have FAT 16, FAT 32 is the next type of file allocation, and you have something called extended FAT, EXFAT. All these are file allocation tables, extended FAT, and there's something called NTFS, New Technology File System. All are actually different systems which helps registering file. The FAT කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Different systems which are used to register files. So what is the difference between FAT and NTFS? Anyone knows? FAT, NTFS, what's the difference? FAT and NTFS. වෙනස මොකක්ද? Both are file allocation tables. FAT is also file allocation table. NTFS is also file allocation table. FAT has different versions. FAT 16, FAT 32, extended FAT. NTFS is also a file allocation table. What's the difference? Main difference? Okay, any one of you having pen drive now? Pen drive එකක් තියෙන කාගේ ළඟද දැන්? Pen drive and a laptop. Senali, do you have pen drive?
The pen drive right now.
Pen drive එකක් නෑ. Laptop එක තියෙනවද? Okay, so can you share the screen quickly? So I can show this difference. Just share the screen. Anyone having pen drive? Shesmi, do you have pen drive? Shimla? Pen drive connected to the laptop? No one? Okay, I see Shenali's screen. And Shenali, can you go to your Explorer, the yellow color one, the icon below? File Explorer, this one. File Explorer. Right, when you go there, and please go to this PC. Right, here you have C and D. C and D both are actually hard disk partitions. Can you right click on C and go to properties? Right click on the drive and then select properties. File like a drive could right click and make right click properties. Yeah. Then go to properties and you can see here the file system is New Technology File System. Can you see? It's NTFS, New Technology File System. The file allocation table NTFS. Please close this. So let's see the recovery partition also. Right click, go to the properties, and that is also NTFS. Both are NTFS, right? But if you had a pen drive, then I could show like pen drive or memory card. Mostly they are using like FAT32 systems. So when you are formatting these hard disks, you can select FAT32, right? We just close it. Don't format, but just select, right click and format. Right click and format. That one format your computer, don't worry. Right click and select format, but don't click OK to that. Just see, here you can see the file system. It is NTFS. Can you drop down? And you can see the other version also, FAT32. There is another system, right? Both are file allocation system. NTFS වල විශේෂත්වය තමයි පුතේ, NTFS has security. NTFS has security feature. දැන් ඔයාලා ඔයාලට මට මේක පෙන්වන්න විදියක් නැහැ, දෙකම නැතුව පෙන් එකක් තිබ්බනම් ටක් ගාලා පෙන්වන්න තිබ්බා. Can you close this? Just close this පුතේ. Close this window. Senali, can you close this window? Yeah. Then when you create a folder, yes. Okay, once you create a folder, so just go to C drive now. Double click and go inside C drive. C drive එක ඇතුළට යන්න. Double click and go to C drive now. Okay, right click on any folder. කැමති එකක් උඩ. Okay, you can see here Danu folder called Danu. You can right click and go to properties. Any folder, just go to properties, and then you can see when the main part again NTFS. You have security tab. That security tab is only there when your file system is NTFS. The pen drive එකක් ගහලා වෙන වෙලාවක බලන්න. If it is FAT32, you cannot see the security part. The security features are coming with NTFS. NTFS වල තමයි security system එක එන්නේ. Okay, that's what I want to tell you. Next day you can try. Others also can try if you have a computer. So that's why I am always asking you to share the screen if possible. Then I can help you finding out this and learn. Right? Practically. මොකද theory ඉගෙන ගන්නකොට practically ඉගෙන ගන්න එක ලේසි. එතකොට අපි දන්නවා මේවා. එතකොට විභාගයේදී දැක්ක හැටි මතක කරා FAT32 අර තිබ්බේ hard disk එකේ file system එකනේ. Right click කරලා properties ගියාම තිබ්බේ. Likewise you can remember that නේද? Practically මතක් වෙනවා ඔබ දැකපු හැටි. ඒක තමයි එහෙම දකින්න එකේ වාසිය. හරි? ඔය FAT32 එතකොට FAT32 ඔවා කියන්නේ file systems. එතකොට contiguous file allocation කියලා කියන්නේ මම මේක කිව්වා. Contiguous file allocation means when your hard disk is allocated in a continuous manner for a file. So there are two kind of allocations. One is fragmented. Fragment එකේ තන තන තියෙන files. කෑලි. දැන් කාමරයක උනත් තන තන බඩු තියෙනකොට ඉඩ යනවා වැඩිනේ. Contiguous allocation කියන්නේ ගානට එක ළඟ තමයි එක කෙලින් එක පේලියට files ටික allocate කරන එක තමයි contiguous allocation කියලා කියන්නේ. Okay, these are two ways of allocating files. Use of cache memory, that is inside the processor. Then the memory management unit, that is responsible for converting virtual address to physical addresses, physical address to virtual addresses, that is also attached to the CPU. එතකොට මේකට උත්තරේ මොකක්ද? So let's go back. Use of a program, and program එකක් තියෙනවා. මම කිව්වා program එකේ size එක ලොකුයි. It's like 5 GB, and you have a random access memory in the other hand. එතකොට තියෙනවා memory එකක්, or your physical memory or your random access memory. Its capacity is only 4 GB. It's less than that file. එතකොට මොකද කරන්නේ? The computer will do, computer will first divide these files into manageable chunks and only take the important sections. මේ ලොකු ෆයිල් එක කෑලි වලට බෙදලා අත්‍යවශ්‍යම කොටස් ටික විතරක් යා physical memory එකට ගන්නවා. Not everything. It will take most essential components only. This process is called swapping, and this process is called paging. So to do that, you need pages, frames, and page tables. Frames are the things which are in the physical memory. මේ physical memory එකට ආවම තියෙන දේවල් වලට අපි කියනවා frames කියලා. එතකොට අර file එක බෙදෙන ඒවාට අපි කියනවා pages කියලා. එතකොට pages වල frame වලටත් frame page වලට map කරන එක කෙනා තමයි page table කියලා කියන්නේ. The mapping happens in the frame. Okay, the answer for question number 15 is clear now. It is pages, frames, and page tables. Right? Okay. Likewise, when we discuss the question, we will go into the theory, right? So if you missed that, you can watch previous videos and then you can see the discussion of that. Okay, let's come to the question number 16, 2020 paper. Which of the following statements regarding the compilers and interpreters are correct? Okay. So what are the compilers and interpreters? What are they? Why we need that? Ayya apita compiler ona, ayya apita interpreter ona. What's the reason why we need compilers and interpreters? Yes?
To translate programming languages.
To translate. Yes, to translate programming languages. Why? Because machines understand the machine language and we understand the high level language. So in our programs, we write like print hello, print 5 plus 1, and print a plus b. We understand the higher level languages. We are happy with this. This is us. Actually, we are happy with these high level languages. We are happy to see that. This is actually happy face. Let me draw happy face. Right? We are really happy with high level languages. But you know, machines are unhappy because machines cannot understand what's this. Machine doesn't know what is this. What's this print? What is this hello? It doesn't know that. But machines are happy with, machines are so happy with machine languages. We are binaries. මේ binaries ලේසියෙන්ම එයාට පුළුවන් එයාට තේරෙන සිග්නල් වලට පරිවර්තනය කරන්න. voltages වලට, current, ones and zeros. So machines are happy with these machine languages. But we are unhappy because we cannot understand this. Therefore, there's an intermediary. අතරමැදියෙක් ඉන්නවා. This intermediary is converting machine codes to, the high level programming codes to machine code. These converters are called translators. Okay, can you tell me translators that you know? What are the translators that you know? Which is converting high level languages to high level languages to machine language. Actually, it is responsible. Translators are responsible for converting high level languages to machine language. Can you name few?
Compilers, interpreters.
Compiler, interpreter, anything else? There's an intermediate one also. Not just compiler, not just interpreter, there's an intermediate one too. That is called assembler, right? Right. Translators. Translators. So number one, assembler. Actually, assembler translate assembly code to machine code. Assembly code is some intermediate code which was used in processor. Processor code processor can understand these assembly codes. Assembly codes are translated to the machine codes. That is assembler. So that is not high level languages. But you have another thing that is interpreter. It translates one line or statement at a time. Eka velawaka eka line එක ගානේ translate කරන කෙනා. That is interpreter. And number 3 is compiler. So when you don't know, you can write down. I'm not giving extra time to write down this. මොකද මම දැන් මේක paper discussion එකක් නේ පුතේ. මට ඒකට වෙලාවක් වෙනම දෙන්න බෑ. ඉතින් ඔයාලට පුළුවන් නොදන්න දේවල් ලියා ගන්න. මම theory එකක් කතා කරනවා. හැබැයි මේක ඉස්සරහට මේක කරන්න අමාරුයි. පොඩ අපි ඉස්සරහට යනකොට අපි ටක් ගාලා වේගින් කතා කරන්න ඕන paper එක. Compiler translates all at once. ඒක ඔක්කොම එකපාර translate කරන එක නා තමයි compiler. කැල translate කරන line by line or statement by statement translator is interpreter. So you have 3 translators: assembler translating assembly to machine code, interpreter translate one line at a time, and compiler translate all at once. So which is faster? Which is faster, interpreter or compiler?
Compile.
Compiler is faster because it translates all at once. So compiler is faster than interpreter, right? Compiler is faster than interpreter, so it's faster. Okay, then, right? We learn about the compiler, interpreter, then we learn about assembler, right? These are the translators, right? Let's read the answers. A compiler transforms entire high-level language program to machine code. Correct. It's translate all at once. Compiler translate entire high-level language to machine. Yes, it's correct. An interpreter convert each high-level program statement into relevant machine code during the program run. That is also correct. Statement at a time. One statement at a time. Compile code usually run faster than interpreted code. That's also correct. Compilation is faster than interpretation. So all A, B, C are correct. 15th one answer is 5. We learn about the pages, frames, and page table. And 16th one answer is the last one again, because compiler translate all at once, correct. Interpreter convert high level to statement by statement. That is also correct. Compiler runs faster than interpreter. Yes, that is also correct. Compile codes are running faster than interpreted codes. So Python, is it compiled, interpreted? What do you think? Python, is it interpreted or compiled?
Interpreted.
Yeah, Python we call it's interpreted. Actually speaking, it is compiled. But the thing is in Python, so what we see is interpretation, right? අපි දකින දේ A level මට්ටමට කමක් නැහැ. You can learn like Python is interpreted because line by line තමයි translate වෙන්නේ. ඕන නම් මම මේක පෙන්නන්නම්. ඒක එහෙම වෙනවා කියන උදාහරණයකුත්. Okay, let's see that. Take a screenshot if you have not taken. Okay, I'm going to erase this now. Okay, so let's see how Python interprets. So let's run a code. Now it's hybrid, right? You have to learn everything in the paper discussion because we assume that you have already done all the lessons. So let's take a Python file, and first line I'm writing A equal 10, which is a correct statement. Second one B equal 45, which is also a correct statement. C equal The third statement is C equal A plus B. That is also correct statement. And then I'm printing C, which is the answer. Then I'm saying D equal dasun. That is also correct. Then I'm asking, okay, E equal D plus C, which is wrong. Why? D is dasun. C is a number. You cannot add string and a number together. And after that, another line, a correct line. Let's say K equal 4 and J equal 5. Print K multiplied by J. Which is wrong here? The wrong one is this one. Because E is E වලට මම කියලා තියෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? දසුන් කියන එකට එකතු කරන්න කියලා C. ඒක කරන්න බෑ. එතකොට මම මේක run කරොත් if I run this. Okay, let's save this. Paper 2020 paper question number 16. Question number 16. And I'm running this. You can see I got 55. 55 මොකද්ද? 10 plus 4. එතකොට මෙතන එනකන් run වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ 10 යි 45. 10 plus 45 is 55. Print C is 55. It's running up to this. දැක්කද? Interpretation කියන්නේ line එකෙන් line එක run වෙලා ඇවිල්ලා මෙතනට එනකන් run වෙනවා. D equal දසුන් කියන එකට එනකොට run වෙනවා. ඕන්න මට මේක දාලා බලන්න පුළුවන් print D. එතකොට එතනට එනකම්ම run වෙනවා. බලන්න. So then it's printing 55 and also dasun. Then stopping because interpretation. I make run වෙලා මෙතනට එනකන් dasun මේකත් print වෙලා මෙතනට එනකොට ඔන්න වැරදි කියලා එනවා. It will stop. So this is interpretation. Okay, I'll ask one tricky question. If you see one error in a program එකක එක error එකක් පෙන්නනවා. ඒක interpreter එකක්ද compiler එකක්ද? Is it an interpreter or compiler? You can see one error in a program. Is it interpreter or compiler?
Compile.
දැන් මෙතනත් එක error එකයි නෙවෙයි නේද? This is interpreter no. You can't tell, right? You can't tell basically. If there's a one error in a program, එක compile එකක් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්, interpret එකක් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. Okay, there are multiple errors in the program. Then is it a compiler or interpreter?
Interpreter.
Compiler. Tricky question, that's right. A multiple errors පෙන්නනවා නම් මුළු program එකම compile කරලා තමයි errors ටික ඔක්කොම පෙන්නන්නේ. interpreter එකට multiple errors පෙන්නන්න බෑ පුතේ. ඇයි ඒ? එයා error එකක් හම්බුනේදී නවතිනවා. එතකොට තව errors පල්ලෙහා තිබ්බට එයා ඒව දන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් අපි හිතමු තව error එකක් තියෙනවා පල්ලෙහා. මෙතන මම ආයෙ දානවා print මම කියනවා hello වැඩි කරන්න කියලා hi ගෙන්. ඒකත් error නේ. hello hi ගෙන් වැඩි කරන්න බෑනේ. ඒතර errors දෙකයි. හැබැයි මෙයා මට පෙන්නන්නේ මේ එක error එකයි. ඔන්න එකයි පෙන්නන්නේ. It's only showing one error. එයා කියන්නේ මේ E එකතු කිරීම D එකතු කිරීම C වැරදි කියලා. පල්ලෙහා එක වැරදි කියන්නේ. මම මේක correct කරා කියමුකෝ මම මේක දසුන් කියන එක වෙනුවට number එකක් දානවා. දැන් ඔන්න ඒක correct නේ. ඔක correct කරලා run කරාට පස්සේ තමයි එයා අනිත් error එක පෙන්නන්නේ. අන්තිමට කියනවා මේ දෙක වැඩි කරන්න බෑ කියලා. දැන් තව චුට්ටක් වැඩියෙන් run වෙනවා. run වෙලා මේක run කරන්න බෑ කියනවා. Interpreter shows always one error. Interpreter can always show one error. Interpreter එකකට එක error එකක් විතරයි පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි compiler එකකට multiple errors පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්. එක error එකක් පෙන්නනවා නම් if it shows one error, it can be interpreter or compiler. Why? මුළු program එකටම තියෙන එක error එකයි නම් ඉතින් compiler එක දෙකක් පෙන්වන්නේ. compiler එක පෙන්වන්නේ එකයි තමයි. Understand correctly, right? ඒතර interpreter එකට පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන් එක error එකයි. compiler එකට පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන් errors කීපයක්. එක error එකක් පෙන්නනවා නම් if it shows one error, that can be interpreter or compiler. ඒක අපිට කියන්න බෑ. We cannot tell that. Because interpreter, if there's one error, interpreter definitely show that. If there's a one error, compiler will also show one error. But if there are multiple errors showing in a program, if there are multiple errors showing in a program, that can be interpreter or compiler. That can be compiler only, because multiple errors can be shown by a compiler. Okay, let me show that also if you don't know. Right? This will be like a programming lesson, but I'm not going to explain this again, right? So listen there, this carefully. This is compiler, because I just want to give you a practical idea. Then in the examination, you will remember. මෙහෙම එකක් අපි කරා. Interpreter එකක් කරා, compiler එකක් කරා. Okay, so let's run a program. Actually, I'm going to run a Java program. Class hello all, and I'm going to run the same kind of program here. Copying this, pasting this, but this time I'm going to run this as a Java program. So public static void main string args bracket open bracket close. Same program, but Java is unlike this Python. Java has types, so we call strongly typed language. එතන Java වල මෙහෙම නිකම්ම ලියන්න බෑ පුතේ. Java වල අනිවාර්යෙන් type එක ලියන්න ඕන. අර Python වගේ ඔටෝ එයා හොයාගන්න නෑ type එක. Java වලන්න නෑ. හරිද? ඉතින් බය වෙන්න එපා. int කියලා කියන්න ඕන, වර්ගය කියන්න ඕන. int a is this, int b is this, then int c is a plus c plus this one. Print කියන්න අපි Java වල system.out.println. This is how we tell that in Java. तर මේකත් කියන්න වෙන අපිට system.out.println, system.out.println, and this is also int d equals 78, and this is system.out.println d, then int e equal d plus c, int k equal 4, so you know it's like complex, int j equal 5. Okay, this is the similar Java program to the particular Python program. Now I'm going to save this as hello all.java. අඩු ගානේ Java program එකක් දැකලා තියෙනවා හරි කියන්න පුළුවන් නේ syllabus එකේ නැති වුණාට නේද? Okay, I have saved that. Now what I'm going to do, so let me compile this. Java වලත් පුළුවන්. දැන් Java වල interpret වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Compile එකක් තමයි ඉස්සෙල්ලාම තියෙන්නේ. Java වල දෙකම තියෙනවා ඇත්තටම. cd desktop java c ඊට පස්සේ hello all.java. Now you can see it's showing 3 errors. Errors තුනක් පෙන්නනවා. Because this is a compiler. මේ එක error එකක් මෙතන semicolon එක නැති එක. ඒකත් එයා පෙන්නනවා. එතනින් පල්ලයට ගිහලා මෙතන semicolon නැහැ කියලා ඒකත් එයා පෙන්නනවා. 2 errors. එතනින් පල්ලයට ගිහලා මෙහෙම string එකක් වැඩි කරන්න බෑ කියලා එයා පෙන්නනවා. එතන 3 errors. හරි. මේ errors තුනම පෙන්නනවා. දැන් ඔන්න මම errors දෙකක් හැදුවා. තුන්වෙනි එක හැදුවේ නැහැ. Then එයා පෙන්නනවා. Here you can say one error. Hello hi වලින් වැඩි කරන්න බෑ. So understood that? Is it clear now? තේරුණාද? Compiler and interpreter both can show one error නේද? Compiler and interpreter both can show one error. එක error එකක් දෙන්නටම පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි errors එකකට වැඩිය පෙන්නනවා නම් definitely that will be a compiler. Understood the logic?
Yes, sir.
Right. I think this is like you don't have Java in your syllabus, but learn this is how a compiler works. Right? This is how a compiler works. So after correcting this, make a correct කරාට පස්සේ compiler එක શબ્ද නැතුව run වෙනවා. So let me comment this. Okay, then yes, line එක වැඩ කරන්නේ. After that you can see the compile is running, and I can interpret this and I can see the same output as I saw in the Python. So this is how I run a Java program. Okay, that's why you need some exposure. Hari, so you can just go and see who's teaching like this in A-level ICT syllabus. That's why actually that is I think my bad feature. I'm teaching practical where students are really reluctant to come to the classes, thinking I do practicals. I'm practical කරන්න කියන ඉඳ screen එක share කරන්න එහෙම කියන ඉඳ මම දන්නවා students ලා කැමති නෑ මේකට එන්න. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ කැමති පාඩම් කරන්න. හැබැයි මම පාඩම් කරන ළමයින්ට මම කැමති නෑ. පාඩම් කරාට කමක් නෑ. මම කියන්නේ IT කියන්නේ technology හරි. That you need to learn practically, right? Practically දැනගත්තම ඕක ඔයිට වැඩිය ලස්සනයි. ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ shape එකේ ඇවිල්ලා පස්සේ වීඩියෝ එක බලනවා කියලා මම හිතන්නේ. Right, that's the thing. Okay, let's go and like let's go and do this next set of questions, Pute. Question number 17 to 21. Try to do and send me the answers. කරන්න බැරි නම් කමන්නේ. කරන්න පුළුවන් අය කරලා මට උත්තරේ වන්න. Please do and send me the answer to the chat. 17 to 21, right? 2020 paper වලට පේනවා questions ටිකක්. Question number 17 to 21. Please do and send the answers quickly. So you have like 5 minutes, 6 minute time. Don't worry. Do it leisurely. Send me the answers. Then I'll discuss, right? While I would pass it, I'm theory discuss. So first you try. And one advice, don't look at the marking scheme. Hari marking scheme එක බලන්න එපා පුතේ. මොකද marking scheme එකේ උත්තර තියෙනවා. ඒක හරි. Marking scheme එකේ උත්තර වළංගු වෙන්නේ 2020 paper එකට විතරයි. It's only valid for 2020 paper. Right? But we are not going to answer 2020 paper again. In our exam, we will get 2021, 22, 23, likewise papers in future. That already which has not come. Right? So we have to ready for those papers, not for the 2020 paper. In the marking scheme, make it try your level best. If you cannot answer, don't worry. I'll teach. Okay, now it's your time. Do it quickly. Question number 17. Which of the following statements regarding guided and unguided media are correct? Which of the following statements regarding guided and unguided media are correct? Guided media, unguided media, which is correct? Guided media guided media transmission support higher data speeds than unguided media transmission. Okay, what is guided? What is unguided? First of all, you should know that guided means wired. Guide karla yavana. Guided means wired. Guided. So it's going only according to the guideline, wired. Unguided means air. Unguided. It's going through, actually it's going through air, right? Air is the medium. So it's no guidance, it's just going through the air, that is unguided. Okay, guided media transmission support higher data speed than unguided media transmission. Is it correct? Guided. Wire wala වේගෙන් යනවාද? Oh, wire wala වේගෙන් යනවා තමයි wireless වල යනවට වඩා. It's correct. Guided media is subjected to less interference than unguided media. Guided media less interference than unguided. Oh, ඒකත් ඇත්ත. Guided media has less interference than unguided. මොකද guide දැන් මේ වාතයේ යනකොට open air යද්දී උලඟින් එතකොට වැස්සෙන් building වලින් එතකොට ගස් වලින් බලාකුළු වලින් ඔය හැම එකෙන්ම බාධක එනවා. So there are many barriers when it's going through air. Thundering, lightning, raining, wind, all are affecting unguided, but guided very less interference. So there's interference තියෙනවා guided වලටත් තියෙනවා අකුණු ගහද්දී එහෙම guided වලටත් interference එනවා නැත්te නෑ හැබැයි අඩුයි. It's less interference than. Okay, then unguided media transmission is more secure than guided media. Unguided කියන්නේ වාතය හරහා යවන එක. Is it more secure? No, anyone can try to hack. So that is not more secure. So people can try to hack these networks. So therefore it's not more secure because it named that signal is going here and there. Signal එක අරහෙට මෙහෙට හැම පැත්තටම යනවා. ඉතින් හැම පැත්තටම යන හින්දා ඒක hack කරන්න ලේසි. හරි ඒ හින්දා guided එක secure නෑ. Unguided is secure. Unguided media transmission was low bandwidth than the guided media transmission. Unguided media transmission uses low bandwidth. So bandwidth එක කියන්නේ අපි ඒකක කාලයකදී. Bandwidth means like what is the amount of data that you receive in a certain amount of time. Let's say amount of data you received within a given time frame or the. So in other hand, there's another way of like telling the bandwidth. Bandwidth means the gap between the lowest and highest bandwidth. The lowest frequency that you can see, send and highest frequency, that you can send. The gap between the lowest and highest frequency is also a bandwidth. So anyway, so unguided media uses low bandwidth. Yes, it's narrow band, low bandwidth. Then guided media. Guided media has high bandwidth. So the gap between the lowest highest frequency is high. Okay, then A, B, and D are correct. So number 2 is the correct answer. A, B, D, it is number 2. Okay, the next one. What is the process carried out in modulation technique in data transmission? All are from the networking part, right? These questions are asking from the networking section, right? What is the process carried out in modulation technique in data transmission? Modulation technique ekedi මොන වගේ process එකක්ද in modulation technique? What is the process carried out in the modulation technique in data transmission? Encoding information in transmitted signal. Modulation. So modulation means like, what is modulation actually? So you have different kind of modulation, you know, frequency modulation, amplitude modulation, phase modulation. So these are some modulations. Modulation means when there are a signal that you need to send to a faraway place. Okay, let's say your signal is something like this. You need to send this signal to some faraway place. So you use very high frequency signal, a high frequency signal as a carrier signal. Again, ara signal එකට අච්චර දුර යන්න බෑගේ frequency එක මදි. ඒ හින්දා සංඛ්‍යාතය ගොඩාක් වැඩි. We are using very high frequency signal as a carrier signal, and the data encoded in this carrier signal, this is our data signal. Data signal. The data signal is encoded in the carrier signal. Data signal is encoded in the carrier signal and sent. So that is called modulation. Encoding information transmitted in a transmitted signal. That's correct. Encoding signals in transmitted encoding information or encoding data in a transmitted signal. Encoding signal transmitted signal එකක් encode කරනව නෙවෙයි, data එකක් තමයි encode කරන්නේ මේ transmitted signal එකේ. Extracting information, no, that is not demodulation. Extracting information is called demodulation. Extracting signal from the transmitter, no. Extracting information from transmitted signal, make it a demodulation. Make a encoding signal in a transmitter, no. Then transfer information with minimum distortion. Yes, actually you can transfer the information with minimum distortion. This is a result of modulation, right? This is just a result of modulation. So the answer is number 1, encoding information in a transmitted signal. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි කරන්නේ මේ වගේ frequency එක ගොඩාක් වැඩි signal එකක් එක්ක අපේ signal එක අමුණලා යවනවා. So that's what we are doing. Okay, number 1 is the correct answer for 18. 19. Which of the following statements about the bus topology are correct? I think you can remember topologies. Topologies means how networks are arranged. In bus topology, you have a central baseline or central signal line like this. Actually, the computers are connected to this using T connectors. The computers are connected to bus topology using T connectors or T junctions. It has a central shared line. Let's draw computers. These are the computers. These computers are connected to a single shared line. Okay, so then, see how to answer. Computers are connected to a single cable. Yes, correct. A single shared line. And they're asking incorrect one, right? Incorrect answers. All traffic flows either clockwise or anti-clockwise. All traffic flows either clockwise. There are no such things. Bandwidth is shared among nodes. Bandwidth is shared among nodes. Yes, it is shared. So bandwidth means this one. මේ තියෙන shared path එකක් නේ, හින්දා මේක share වෙනවා කට්ටියත් එක්ක. That is also correct. Each node is connected to 2 of its neighbors. each node is connected to two. No, that is ring topology, right? Ring topology එකේ තමයි දෙපැත්ත තියෙන දෙන්නට connected neighbors ලා. මෙතනදී ඉතින් එහෙම එකක් නැහැ. This is connected to central SAT line. So what is wrong here? So this one is wrong. This one is wrong. So B, D are wrong. So the correct answer is the wrong answer. Means, so they're asking what is incorrect? No, incorrect B and D. So 40 is the correct answer for 90. Okay, question number 20. Consider the following statement with a blank. A media access control address is usually represented in MAC address. How to check MAC address? In your computer, you can type ARP actually -A. Then you can see your IP address and the relevant MAC address. IP address and the MAC address. IP address, MAC address. MAC address is the physical address. Okay, how MAC address is represented? Using hexadecimal. You can see it's hexadecimal. This is decimal. IP address is decimal. MAC address is hexadecimal. ARP command will let you find your MAC address and some others MAC addresses also. ARP can address resolution protocol. Address resolution protocol. It's responsible for converting IP to MAC and MAC to IP. Responsible of converting IP to MAC and MAC to IP. That is ARP, address resolution protocol. If you type ARP -A, you can get the MAC addresses and relevant IP addresses of the connected computers. Then 1.1 කියලා කියන්නේ route එක. මේ තියෙන route එකේ MAC address එක. So 1.25 කියන්නේ තව මොකක් හරි computer එකක්. මේ තියෙන ඒකේ MAC address එක. Right, ඒ වගේ connect වෙච්ච computers සහ ඒ වගේ MAC address අපිට බලා ගන්න connected computers and their MAC addresses. We can watch like this. Okay. Right, so it is represented in hexadecimal. Then question number 21. You are requested to create 16 subnets with class C IP. Which subnet mask is suited to create the subnet? Class C කියලා කියන්නේ, if it is a class C IP, the first 3 digits should be 255. 255, 255. In class B නම් 255 දෙකයි එන්නේ. Class A නම් 255 එකයි එන්නේ. Class C නම් 255 කැලේ තුනක් එනවා. ඒතර මේකෙත් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. මේකත් හරි, මේකත් හරි, මේකත් හරි, මේකත් ඔක්කොම class C තමයි දීලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් දැන් එතනින් උත්තරේ හොයන්න වෙන්නේ 255 කැලේ තුනක් තියෙනවා නම් if there are 3 255 portions, so that is class C. So when all are class C, therefore we cannot find which is the okay 16 subnet. 16 subnets. You can network එක බෙදන්න ඕන. You need to divide the network to 16 sub portions. Okay. So I'll ask very simple question. If you need 16 combinations, how many digits you need?
4.
4. Because 2 to the power 4 is generating 16. 16 combination ඕන නම් bit 4ක් ඕන. මොකද දෙකේ 4 වෙනි බලය 16යි. එතකොට මෙයා කරන්නේ පුතේ මෙන්න මේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් bit 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 ඔය තමයි මුල් 255. ඊළඟට ආයි ඊළඟ 255 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. ඒකත් හරිනේ. ඒකත් දැන් reserve. ඒකත් දීලා තියෙනවා. ඊළඟට ඊළඟ 255. මොකද IP address එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ you know IP address is a 32 bit address. A 32 bit address again. So let's allocate first 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 subnet. Sorry, network. Next 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 network. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 network. දැන් ඔන්න network වලට දැනටමත් 255 තුනක් දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ 8 ones 8 ones 8 ones. Voila, ගණන් හදලා බලන්න. So this is like 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus මේ වගේ අගයන් දන්නවනේ. දෙකේ පාදයේ අගයන් ටික. මේ තියෙන්නේ එකේ ගොඩවල්. මේ තියෙන්නේ දෙකේ ගොඩවල්. මේ තියෙන්නේ ඒකේ දෙගුණේ හතරේ ගොඩවල්. මේ තියෙන්නේ ඒකේ දෙගුණේ අටේ ගොඩවල්. එතකොට 1යි 2යි 3යි 3යි 4යි 7යි 7යි 8යි 15යි ඊළඟට 15ත් එක්ක 16ක් එකතු කරාම 31යි 31ත් එක්ක එකතු කරන්න 32ක් එතකොට 63යි 63ත් එක්ක එකතු කරන්න 64ක් එතකොට 127ක් එනවා 127ක් එකතු කරන්න 128ක් එතකොට එනවා 255 කොහොම තමයි 255 හැදෙන්නේ okay this is 255 255 255 එතකොට ඔයාලා තව මොකද්ද කිව්වේ 4ක් ඕන කිව්වා 16ක් හදන්න නම් bit 4ක් ඕන දෙකේ 4 වෙනි බලය 16 එහෙමනම් තව bit 4ක් there are 4 more bits allocated for network and other 4 bits are remaining for the hosts එතකොට network වලට තව 4ක් allocate වෙනවා because you need 16 subnets 1 2 3 4 now we have to calculate the value of this මේ තියෙන කී කොටවලද මේ තියෙන කී කොටවලද මේ තියෙන කී ඒවද මේ තියෙන කී ඒවද කියන්න බලන්න මේ තියෙන 128 කොටවල 64 කොටවල 32 කොටවල එතකොට මේ තියෙන්නේ 16 කොටවල එකතු කරන්න බලන්න 1 to 80 sorry 64 1 to 8 plus 64 192 192 plus 32 224 224 plus 16 yes 240 so answer is number 1 240 240 හැදෙන්නේ මෙහෙම එතකොට 16ක් ඕන හින්දා 4ක් allocate කරනවා මොකද 2 4 කියන්නේ සමානයි 16ට 2 4 වෙනි බලය 16යි වර්ග 16ක් ඕන හින්දා bit 4ක් allocate කරන මේ 4 වටිනාකම තමයි 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16 මොකද ඉතුරු තුන හොස්ලාට කම්පියුටර්ස් වලට ඉතුරු තුන ඉතුරු 4 දෙන්නේ එතන 128 64 192යි 192 plus 32 is 224 224 plus 16 is 240 and the first one is the answer for that. Okay, that's how you find the answer for these questions. Right, let's do a few more questions for today also. Let's do a few more questions. 22, 23. Okay, currently please do 22 and 23 only. Which of the following statement regarding the testing of a system are correct? Black box testing involve detailed checking of each line in the code. Black box කියලා කියන්නේ cover වුණ box එක. Black box. Black box is covered box. So you just put your inputs and you check whether the outputs are there. Okay, let's say you put 2 and 2 plus 2 and the black box answers 4. You think that, okay, so you suspect the black box is created for addition. ඔයා විශ්වාස කරනවා මේ black box එක addition වලට එකතු කිරීමට හදලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒතකොට ඔයා input විදිහට දාලා බලනවා 2 2 4යි. So you agree. Sorry. This is test data. This is expected result and actual result is also similar to the expected result. But you don't see what is inside. So next time you put some other data, let's say you put 2 plus 3 and your expected result is 5, but let's say your actual result is something like 6. You expected 5, but you got 6. Right, you put another one. This is fail now, right? Because you expected the make expect kare 4 ඇත්තටම 4 හම්බුණා test pass මෙතන expect කරේ 5 but 6 test fail then you put some other test data let's say 5 plus 3 should be 8 right so your expected result is 8 so let's say your actual result is 15 now you know something is wrong here actually you can even detect the error or error එක detect කරන්න පුළුවන් what's the error error is actually this is not addition box this should be multiplication because 2 into 2 is 4 2 into 3 is 6 5 into 3 is 15 so this is not addition this is multiplication so likewise you can judge the error by just analyzing the inputs and outputs again input output විතරක් වෙනස් කරලා error එක හොයාගන්න පුළුවන් that is called black box testing. Black box testing involves detailed checking of each line of the code. No, it's not checking. It's only checking inputs output. Unit testing help to uncover errors in the code. Yes. So the unit testing is basically unit by unit, one by one you test. You analyze the code even, test one by one, and it will help you identifying the errors. So that is correct. Then system testing should not be performed prior to the unit testing. There is no such rule actually. System testing should not be performed prior to unit testing. එහෙම rule එකක් නැහැ. හැබැයි සම්ප්‍රදායිකව අපි කරන්නේ මුලින් unit testing. එහෙනම් මේකෙදින් partially හරි වැරදි කියලා ගමුකෝ, then only B is correct answer for 22. Answer is number 2. Right? So you can take like that. Sorry, you can take this as B. But the thing is, මේකෙදි අපි දෙපැත්තම හිතන්න ඕනේනේ. Unit testing should not be performed කියන්නේ කරන්නේ නැහැ කියලාමයි කියන්නේ. එහෙමම කියන්න බෑ. එහෙමම කියන්න බෑ. So that is not a rule. හරි, ඒක සම්ප්‍රදායක් විදියට එහෙම කරන්නේ නැහැ තමයි. එතකොට rule. එතකොට මේක හරි කියලාද ගන්න අපි වැරදි කියලාද ගන්න. So that we have to think. Is it correct or wrong? Correct or wrong? Correct or wrong? So then මේක වැඩිපුර හරිනේ පුතේ. සම්ප්‍රදායිකව මේක හරිනේ. මේක කරනවානේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වෙන දෙන්නේ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වෙන දේ විදියට ගත්තොත් then we have to take B and C and are the answers. So answer is number 5. Answer is not this one. Answer is number 5. මේ වගේ doubtful ඒවා එන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතකොට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වෙන දේ සලකා බලන්න. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඉතින් unit testing වලට කලින් system testing කරන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද ඉස්සෙල්ලාම unit testing කෑල්ල test කරලා ඊට පස්සේ integrated testing කෑලි එකතු කරලා test කරලා integrated testing ඊටත් පස්සේ තමයි system testing කරන්නේ. දැන් ඒක තමයි සම්ප්‍රදාය. හැබැයි කෙනෙකුට අවශ්‍ය නම් system testing කලින් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකයි මම කියුවේ මේක partially හරි කියලා. But normally what is happening, unit testing, then the integrated testing, then the system testing. Therefore, you can take this as correct answer. So B and C are the correct answers for this question. Therefore, 5 is the correct answer. So that's how we have to argue, right? Because everything is not 100% perfect. Only thing is, but the angle that you are looking into that. So do your papers, right? Which of the following indicates functional requirements? Okay, functional and non-functional requirements. Functional and non-functional. Functional requirement means what system should do. Actually, must do things. Or what system should do. System making අනිවාර්යෙන් කරන්න ඕන දේවල් නැත්නම් අපිට කියනවා must do. Must do ඒවා නැත්නම් system making කළ යුතු දේ. Those are functional requirements. Non-functional requirement means limitations on those requirement. Okay, let's say something like this. This we have discussed several times, right? So if you are coming to our classes from the beginning, so I think we have discussed this more than 10 times by now. Functional කියලා කියන්නේ main requirement. What you do, what is expected from the system is functional. How it is expected is non-functional. For an example, okay, the system should give you printouts. That is functional. System should give a printout within 2 seconds. That is non-functional. Because first one is telling giving printout කියන එක අනිවාර්යයි. ඒතර printout එක තප්පර දෙකකින් දෙනවා කියන එක ඒක restriction එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක පොඩි මේ වැඩි දෙයක්. වැඩි හොඳට කරන දෙයක්. ඒ වගේ ඒවා අපි කියනවා non-functional කියලා. Okay, which of the following are functional? Users should be obtained, allowed to update their contact address and the phone number. Yes, for sure, it's functional. And then any user request must be responded within 2 milliseconds. That's a limitation. Limitation is non-functional, right? The system must be easy to change. Change කියන එක functional, easy to change කියන එක non-functional. It's a limitation. So A is the only possible functional requirement. මොකද අනිත් දෙකම limitations. ඒ කියන්නේ මේක කරන්න ඕන විදිහ. කරන්න ඕන විදිහ කියන්නේ non-functional. The user must respond within 2 seconds. That's a limitation, a non-functional. System must be easy to change. That is a limitation. That's non-functional. So A is the only answer here. Okay, let's answer 24 also. The following details are given about a software project. The following details are given about a software project. Requirements are fixed, not changing. throughout the project. Very good. Must deliver a complete software product at once. Sampurna software එක එකපාර දෙන්න ඕන. So pace development is not supported. Requirement are clear means you can start the system designing everything immediately, one after another. Details, description and specification must be prepared for each activity within the project. Detail, description and specification must be prepared for each activity within the project. Detail, specification, description. What is the most suitable software process model for this?
Waterfall.
Yes, waterfall. Why?
Because
Yes, when system requirements are clear and stable, then system should be delivered once. The way ඔක්කොම නිකන් හිතේ මවගන්න requirement clear නම් පිළිවෙලට යන්න. එකපාර deliver කරන්න නම් එහෙනම් පිළිවෙලට හදලා අන්තිමට deliver කරන්න. Then detailed description specification must be prepared. හැම එකටම detailed description එකක් හදලා පැහැදිලිව කරගෙන යන්න ඕන නම් waterfall is the model. Agile model is more suitable, right, when the system is dynamic and you need more user involvement. User involvement එක වැඩිපුර පරිශීලකයා වැඩිපුර involve වෙනවා නම් developers ලාට අමතරව users ලාත් ඉන්නවා නම් developer side එකේ නැත්නම් users ලා කියලා developer side එකේ ඉන්නවා නම් ඒ දෙකොල්ල එකතු වෙලා නම් development එක කරන්නේ. That's better agile model. Prototype කියලා කියන්නේ when requirements are not clear, so you need to do a prototype, a sample. Requirement clear නැත්නම් sample එකක් prototype එකක් හදන්න. Okay, these days actually I'm modifying vehicle for traveling purpose. So initially I set my requirement to the modifying people. They were not clear about the requirement. Then what I had to do, I have created a prototype. මම පොඩි sample එකක් prototype එකක් හදලා මම ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ prototype එකේ sample එකේ මෙහෙම තමයි ඕන. This is what I need. This is my plan. Likewise, if it is available, I can show this. This is modification project. It's ongoing. Okay, I have to model that. Okay, not here. These are some actually drawing samples. You can see here. I have created a 3D model. To get the quotation even, I had to create the 3D model. This is actually my 3D model, not sure it's available now. Yeah, here. I have to 3D model it, send the design, and I have created this in a 3D way. Then send to them for actually, otherwise like requirements were not clear to them. Then I had to create a video project first and a model of the project first and send it to them. Then only they were like okay with the situation and gave the quotation. So likewise, prototype is needed when requirements are not clear and you want to clarify the requirement to the developers. Rapid application development, so that is suitable when you need a fast project delivery, shorter schedule. So basically 90 days, a shorter schedule. In rapid application development, advanced tools, reusing advanced tools are used with skilled workers. Example එකක් මම කිව්වොත් ඔය පාලමක් එහෙම කැඩනම ටෙම්පරරි පාලම් හදන්නේ ටක් ගාලා මැෂින් ඇවිල්ලා ටක් ගාලා පාලම සෙට් කරලා යනවා දවසින් ටෙම්පරරි එකක්. So that is rapid application development kind of thing. ඒක RAD වගේ. ඒතර tools ගොඩක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා, reuse කරනවා කෑලි ටක් ගාලා assemble කරලා දෙන්න. So that is RAD kind of thing. That's not RAD, that's similar to RAD. Spiral model is like stage by stage. When risk is high, when there's a very high risk, spiral model is used. Step by step, part by part, risk is reduced, and part by part development is that is called that spiral model. When risk is high, one of the best model is requirement is this spiral model. Waterfall model is better when requirements are clear and requirements are not changing. Clear and stable, then the waterfall model. Okay. We have discussed after question number 24 for today. Next day, I think we can start from the next day because this is now DBFD database related thing. So all the questions are related to database. I'll keep it for the next day. Good night. See you all next week.